Hello from Gardening at Dwensa here in Ireland, and this video is all about lifting dahlias in autumn for winter storage. Now in autumn with dahlias they do flower for a very long time, but there comes that moment when the first hard frost will render them looking something like this. And as you can see, all the foliage is blackened. And now it's time to lift the dahlias. Right, so this is the dahlia we're going to lift today. Now this one is in a bit of a sheltered position, so the frost hasn't hit it yet. You don't actually have to wait until the frost withers it completely, because if there's rain expected, perhaps you want to lift your dahlias on a dry day rather than in the middle of the rain. But it's time for this to come up now. It's the 2nd of November, and this is what I'm going to do. So first thing I'm going to do is dig it up. And so just dig in with your spade in an area all around the dahlia. Making sure not to damage the tubers, and then just lever it up with the spade, and here we go. Here we have the dahlia lifted, and the advantage of doing this in the dry weather is that a lot of the earth will just shake straight off. Now I'm going to store this one, so next thing I need to do is to cut off the top growth. So let's bring this over to the greenhouse. Okay, so here I am with the dahlia, and what I'm going to do now is to cut off the top growth. So this is going to drop, so you might want to come down lower to have a look at it. And so just cut off the stems, which are blackened in some cases but not in this one. And then what we need to do is clean up the tubers a little bit. Now that has actually come out very clean. Most of the soil is off because we dug it up when it was dry, but we're just going to wash it a little bit. Now some people never wash their dahlias when they lift them and do very well with them, but I prefer to wash them, just that if there is a lot of soil and it retains moisture, then what can happen is that your dahlias can rot over winter, and well, what's the point in that? So just kind of wash them up a little bit. And this one is a lovely one called Admiral Rawlings. Very, very tall purple flowers. That had a bad start this year, but hopefully next year it'll do brilliantly for me. Oops, now don't do that. Okay, if you want to separate your dahlias at this stage, you can do, but remember, when you separate them you must have eyes, so it's no good just pulling off that tuber like I did there. Even if it weren't damaged, that isn't going to grow. You need at least one eye. This is the point where the stalks come from for the dahlia to actually grow again the next year. These tubers, they're just food storage. Okay, so that's reasonably clean. I'm not going to divide this. I'm going to just put it somewhere dry to dry out now before I dry store it. And that means going in here to the greenhouse. And what I'm going to do is just put it here on the greenhouse floor for a few days to dry out completely. And what I'll do is I'll turn it. So I'll leave it like that for a day or so, and then turn it like that, and we'll dry it all out like that. And what do you do when it's completely dried out? Well, it just so happens that here's a little something I prepared earlier. And we have here a dried out dahlia which I lifted some time ago. Now I actually left quite a bit of earth on that one. Never mind. And when it gets dried like this, what you're going to do is to store them in a paper bag. So in it goes. And you can store these bags, if you've got a nice frost-free greenhouse, store them in the greenhouse, or you can store them indoors. It doesn't matter, they're not going to start into active growth. Now just a little word on shriveling. And I will say that if your dahlia tuber is too small, then what may happen is that the tubers will shrivel and you won't be able to resuscitate them in spring. Or some species dahlias have a terrible bad habit of shriveling. Dahlia australis, in my opinion, doesn't like this kind of winter storage, but this works well for the majority of, well, hybrid dahlias that we grow. And that's really it for storing dahlias in winter. Now, I can't advise you on whether or not you need to lift your dahlias wherever you live. You're going to have to work that out for yourself. So view what your neighbours do. And I will say also that some dahlias are much hardier than others. So for example, I have some that I leave always in the garden and I never need to dig up, yet there are others that I know will disappear if we get a bit of a hard frost, like if we go, say, below -5 this winter. So you need to judge it for yourself, and you need to decide how precious that particular dahlia is for you, that you're willing to take a risk. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'm linking up above to the other video I made about 2 years ago on what to do in spring when it's time to pot up those dahlias that you've stored so carefully over winter. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.